There was a season in your life so dark that you wondered if the light in you had gone out completely. You could not feel it. You could not see it. And the people around you, the ones who were supposed to know you best, they could not see it either. But heaven could. And what heaven saw in the middle of your darkest season was not a light that was dying. It was a light being protected, shielded by the very darkness that was trying to destroy it. And when that protection is fully lifted, when what has been hidden is finally revealed, even the angels will stand in awe of what God preserved inside you. There is a paradox at the heart of every chosen one's story, and it is this: the very thing that looked like it was destroying you was actually protecting you. The darkness that surrounded you, the seasons of isolation, of invisibility, of being pressed on every side with no apparent way out, was not the absence of God's hand. It was the presence of it. Not the comfortable, warm, everything is going well presence that we associate with blessing. The fierce, protective, strategic presence of a God who understood something that you could not see in the middle of it, that what he placed inside you was too significant, too powerful, too consequential in its potential impact to be exposed before it was fully formed. So he shielded it. With darkness. I know that sounds strange. I know that the word darkness carries associations that make this concept feel counterintuitive. We associate darkness with the enemy, with danger, with the absence of God rather than the presence of him. And there is a kind of darkness that is exactly that. The darkness of spiritual attack, of oppression, of the enemy's active work against a chosen one's life. But there is another kind of darkness, a different kind entirely. The darkness of the womb, the darkness of the seed underground before it breaks through the surface. The darkness of the cocoon that holds the creature that is being transformed from one thing into something incomparably more beautiful. This darkness is not the enemy's. This darkness belongs to God. It is the environment he creates around things that are being formed, things that are not yet ready to face the full exposure of the light because the exposure would damage rather than reveal what is inside. Your dark seasons were that kind of darkness. The isolation you endured was not abandonment. It was incubation. The invisibility that felt like rejection was not God looking away. It was God covering. The pressing on every side that left you feeling crushed was not the enemy winning. It was the specific, targeted, divinely applied pressure that produces in a chosen one what no comfortable season ever could. A character so refined, a faith so tested, a depth so genuine that when it finally emerges into the full light, it carries a quality that is unmistakable to everyone who encounters it, including the angels. Let me tell you something about the angelic realm that most people never stop to fully consider. Angels are not simply decorative spiritual figures. They are beings of enormous power, of ancient existence, of having witnessed the full sweep of God's work in human history from the very beginning. They have watched empires rise and fall. They have been present at the moments that changed the course of nations. They have stood at the edges of divine events that human language still struggles to adequately describe thousands of years later. They have seen a great deal. And yet, in the spiritual world, in the realm where they operate, there is one thing that consistently arrests their attention, one thing that, even with all they have witnessed, still produces in them something that looks remarkably like awe. A human being who walks through genuine darkness and comes out carrying more light than they went in with. Not just surviving the darkness, being transformed by it, emerging from it as something that was not there before, as something that could only have been produced by exactly that process, as a vessel that is now capable of carrying what God always intended to place inside it precisely because of everything that the dark season built into its interior. When that emergence happens, when a chosen one steps out of the darkness carrying what God protected and developed in the hidden place, heaven does not observe it with indifference. The angels who have been assigned to that life, who have witnessed every moment of the formation, who have been present in every dark room and every desperate prayer and every morning when continuing to move forward cost more than it seemed possible to pay. Those angels respond to the emergence with something that the ancient texts describe as worship directed upward, not toward the chosen one, toward the God who did it, who took a human being through darkness that should have destroyed them and produced from that process something that glorifies him in ways that easy seasons never could. Even angels tremble, not in fear, in reverence, in the recognition of what they are witnessing. the full revelation of a life that God designed, protected, formed, and is now releasing into its purpose. That is your story, and it is not finished being written. Now I want to walk you through the specific ways that the darkness shielded your light, because I do not want this to remain abstract. I want you to be able to look back at your own story with new eyes to see what was actually happening in the seasons that felt most like abandonment, and to find in that looking a peace and a gratitude and a clarity about your own journey that changes the way you carry everything that is ahead. The first way the darkness shielded your light was by keeping the wrong people away. This is something that most chosen ones never consider when they are in the dark season. All they feel is the aloneness, the way that people who were once close begin to drift, the way that certain opportunities that seem to be opening suddenly close, the way that the social world they were once part of seems to contract around them until they are standing in a much smaller space than they occupied before. And they feel that contraction as loss, but look at it from heaven's perspective. When God has placed something extraordinary inside a person, something that is in the process of being developed, something that is tender and not yet fully formed, the last thing that development needs is exposure to people who would mishandle it, people who would take what is fragile and treat it casually, people who would speak to the vision before it has roots and say things that seem reasonable, but that would plant seeds of doubt in ground that is still being prepared. God knows exactly who those people are. And the darkness, the season of isolation that felt like rejection, was Him, with extraordinary love and extraordinary strategy, creating the conditions under which the wrong people would naturally step back. Not through drama, not through conflict, simply through the natural drift that happens when a person's life enters a season that most ordinary people cannot navigate alongside them. The people who stayed, the few, the small number who remained present in your dark season, those are the ones worth noting, because God kept them there on purpose. They were being tested in the darkness too, and they stayed. And the loyalty they demonstrated in that season is the quality that makes them trustworthy for everything that comes next. The darkness did not just shield your light, it revealed who was safe to stand near it. The second way the darkness shielded your light was by slowing you down at exactly the right moment. Chosen ones carry enormous energy, an intensity of purpose and urgency about their calling, a forward-driving force that can, if not properly timed, cause them to move into their assignment before they are fully ready to carry it. Not because their intentions are wrong, but because readiness for a God-sized assignment is not simply a matter of having the gifts. It is a matter of having the character, the humility, the wisdom, the capacity for sustained faithfulness that only comes from having been through enough to know what you are made of. The darkness slowed you down, not to punish you, not to hold you back permanently, to give the interior formation the time it needed to produce what the assignment required, to let the character development catch up with the calling, to ensure that when you finally moved into your purpose, you moved as someone who had been built for it rather than someone who was simply enthusiastic about it. There is an enormous difference between the two. Enthusiasm without formation produces movements that are bright and brief. Formation without enthusiasm produces steadiness without impact. But a chosen one who carries both, the fire of genuine calling and the depth of genuine formation, that person produces something that lasts, something that outlives the season of its most visible impact. Something that changes things at a level that is still being felt long after the person themselves is gone. The darkness gave you that depth. It is one of the most significant gifts you have ever received. The third way the darkness shielded your light was by doing something to your ego that nothing comfortable ever could. I want to be honest here because this is the part that most people find most difficult to sit with. The dark seasons did not just build you, they also stripped you of things that felt important and turned out to be in the way, of the particular confidence that comes from external validation, from being seen and recognized and celebrated by the people around you. And that looks like strength, but is actually a dependency. Of the image of yourself that you had constructed from the opinions of others and that had to be dismantled before the real self, the God-designed, purpose-built, unperformed self could emerge. That stripping was not cruelty, it was surgery. A surgeon who loves their patient does not avoid cutting them. They cut with precision and with care and with the specific intention of removing what would kill the patient if left in place. God, who loves you with a completeness that no human being has ever loved another, performed that surgery in your dark season. He removed the things that were feeding a version of you that was impressive but not sustainable. The version built on external approval, on being seen in certain ways, on the performance of a calling rather than the living of it. What is left, after the stripping, after the surgery, after the darkness has done its refining work, is the real you, the one that does not need the validation to keep moving, the one that does not collapse when the applause stops, the one that can stand in a room where nobody recognizes their significance and still know with absolute internal certainty who they are and what they carry. That version of you is dangerous in the most beautiful sense of that word, and it only exists because the darkness was permitted to do its work. Welcome back, chosen one. Let me continue with what it means, right now in your present season, that your darkness shielded your light. Because we have established what happened in the past, we have looked at the dark seasons with honest spiritual eyes and found in them the protective hand of a God who was not absent but present in ways that the darkness itself obscured. We have seen what the formation produced. We have understood why the shielding was necessary. Now I want to talk about what happens when the shield is lifted, when the season of protection through darkness ends and the time of full emergence begins, when the light that was hidden, the gifts, the calling, the depth, the authority, the specific quality of presence that was being developed in the secret place is finally released into full visibility. This moment is coming for you. In fact, for many of you, it is not coming. It has already begun. The stirring you feel, the sense of something waking up inside you, something expanding, something pressing against the boundaries of the life you have been living as if it has grown too large for the container. That stirring is the light beginning to emerge from its protective darkness, beginning to push through the surface of the contained, careful, pressed down life that the dark season required you to live. And the emergence is going to surprise you, not because you do not know what is inside you. You have always known at some level what you carry, but because the full force of what was preserved, what was developed and refined and protected through everything you went through, is larger than what you currently believe it to be. The darkness did more in you than you know. The formation went deeper than you have been able to measure. And when the full weight of what God built in the hidden place is released into the visible world, even you are going to be astonished by it. You will look at what comes out of you, the wisdom, the clarity, the authority, the capacity for genuine impact, and you will not fully recognize it as your own. It will feel too large, too certain, too powerful to have come from someone who spent so long in the dark, but it came from exactly that. It came from the dark. It was built there, protected there, refined there, and now it is ready. Let me talk about the specific qualities that emerged from your dark season that you may not have fully recognized yet as the extraordinary gifts they are. The first is a capacity for compassion that operates at a different level than ordinary human empathy. What you developed in your dark seasons was not simply the ability to feel sympathy for people who are suffering. It was the ability to be genuinely present with suffering, to sit with another person in their darkness without needing to fix it, without needing to rush them toward the light, without needing to make their pain more manageable for your own comfort. This is extraordinarily rare. Most people, when confronted with genuine suffering in someone they care about, respond from a place of their own discomfort with that suffering. They offer solutions or platitudes or distance, because the presence of real pain activates their own unprocessed pain and they need to move away from it. You do not do that, because you have been in the darkness yourself, because you know what it feels like to have someone respond to your pain with solutions you did not need or comfort you did not ask for, because the dark season taught you that sometimes the most powerful thing one human being can offer another is not an answer but a presence, not a fix but a faithfulness. Not an explanation of why the darkness is good, but simply the wordless body and soul communication of, I am here. You are not alone. I will stay. That capacity, that specific, hard-won, darkness-developed ability to be fully present with suffering, is one of the most significant gifts in your arsenal. And it is going to be the thing that changes people's lives most profoundly as you step into the fullness of your purpose. Not the eloquence of your words, not the impressiveness of your gifts, the realness of your presence in the hard moments, People who have never been in the dark cannot offer that. You can. The second quality that emerged from your dark season is a discernment that cuts through deception with surgical precision. When you have been in genuine darkness, when you have lived in seasons where the difference between what was real and what was a performance, what was genuine and what was a mask, what was truly safe and what was dangerous dressed as safe, you develop an ability to read reality that people who have only lived in comfortable seasons do not possess. You know when someone is not telling the truth, not because you are suspicious by nature, but because you have developed an interior calibration for authenticity that is almost impossible to fool. You know when a situation is not what it is presenting itself as. You can feel the inconsistency between what is being said and what is actually happening before any visible evidence supports the feeling. This discernment is spiritual in its origin. It is the gift that Scripture calls the discerning of spirits. But it was also developed through experience, through the specific, repeated, costly experience of learning to trust what you felt over what you were told when those two things conflicted, through seasons where ignoring your own perception in favor of someone else's words cost you more than you anticipated, through the discipline of paying attention to the interior signal even when the exterior world was telling a completely different story. That discernment is now operating at a level that is genuinely remarkable. And in the season ahead, as God positions you in rooms and relationships and opportunities of increasing significance, it is going to be one of your most essential and most protective gifts. The third quality, and this is perhaps the one that will surprise you most, is a joy that does not depend on circumstances. I know that might sound ironic, that the dark season produced joy. But this is the specific, paradoxical, deeply spiritual truth about what extended periods of genuine difficulty do to a chosen one who maintains their faith through it. They strip away every false source of joy until what remains is the real thing. The joy that depends on things going well, gone. The joy that comes from being seen and celebrated, gone. The joy that is produced by comfortable circumstances and pleasant interactions and the general sense that life is cooperating with your desires. All of it, stripped away, tested, revealed as contingent on conditions that cannot be guaranteed. And what is left, after everything that was false has been removed, is something that has no earthly source. A joy that lives below the level of circumstance, that is present even in the hard days, that surfaces in unexpected moments, that makes no logical sense given the external conditions of your life, and yet is undeniably, physically, recognizably real. That joy is not something you manufactured. It is something that was revealed when everything manufactured was taken away. And it is one of the most powerful testimonies you carry, because the world is full of people who are searching for exactly that, for a happiness that does not evaporate when things get hard, and finding it nowhere. And when they encounter someone who carries it, someone who has genuine peace and genuine joy, not because their life is easy, but because they know something about God that comfortable people have not yet had the occasion to discover. That encounter changes something in them. You carry that. It was developed in the darkness. Now let me speak to the angels, or rather, let me speak to you about the angels, about what it means that even they tremble at what God has done and is doing in your life. The trembling of angels is not fear. Let me be absolutely clear about that. The angels assigned to the life of a chosen one do not tremble in fear of that person. They tremble in the way that any being of genuine spiritual depth trembles when it witnesses something that points unambiguously to the glory of God, when it sees, in the middle of the ordinary and the broken and the deeply human story of one life, the unmistakable signature of divine work, of a plan being executed with the precision and the care and the love that only God is capable of bringing to the formation of a human soul. They tremble because what they see in you is not just your story. It is God's story, told through your life. And God's story, His faithfulness, His patience, His willingness to work through darkness and pain and human limitation and the long, slow, costly process of forming a person into their full purpose, that story never gets old. Even for angels who have watched it play out 10,000 times in 10,000 lives across all of human history, it is always staggering. It It is always the most beautiful thing in any room it occupies, and it is happening in you. So here's what I want to leave with you as the final word of this message. Not instruction, not a list of things to do, just truth. Clear, settled, heaven-sent truth that I want you to carry from this moment forward like a stone in your pocket. Something solid that you can reach for on the days when nothing feels solid. The darkness was not your enemy. The darkness was your guardian. Everything you endured, every dark season you walked through, every moment of isolation and pressing and stripping, all of it was working for you, not against you, building in you what could not be built any other way, protecting in you what needed to be protected until it was strong enough to face the full light, forming in you the exact shape of vessel that the purpose God placed on your life required. And now, with the formation complete, with the shielding having served its purpose, with the light that was protected now ready to emerge in its full force, heaven is removing the covering, not to expose you, to release you into the fullness of what you were always created to be. The angels are watching, heaven is leaning forward, the darkness has done its work, and now the light that it shielded, your light, the specific, unrepeatable, God-given light of your life and your calling and your gifts and your story is about to be seen by the people who need it, by the world that has been waiting for it without knowing what it was waiting for, by the God who planned it before the foundation of the world and has been faithfully working it toward this moment through every season of your life, including every dark one. You are the light. The darkness only proved it. Go shine.